The sun was setting behind the hills of a quiet suburban neighborhood when 13-year-old Malik stepped off the cracked sidewalk and onto the roadside shoulder. He was walking home from his part-time job at a local grocery store, his backpack hanging loosely over one shoulder, when he noticed a sleek black Mercedes pulled over with hazard lights blinking. A man in a tailored suit stood beside the car, looking frustrated and out of place, holding his phone up to the sky trying to get a signal. Malik hesitated for a second. Most people wouldn't expect a kid like him to offer help, especially with something like a flat tire. But his mom had always told him, kindness costs nothing but it can change everything. So he approached. Need a hand? Malik asked, pointing toward the deflated rear tire. The man looked up, surprised. You know anything about changing tires? Malik shrugged. Enough to get you rolling again. The man smiled, slightly amused but clearly desperate. Be my guest. Malik set down his bag and got to work. 20 minutes later, the spare was on, the tools packed, and the man wiping his hands with a silk handkerchief. You saved me a huge headache, the stranger said. I'm Daniel. Daniel Hartley. Malik, the boy replied, brushing dust from his jeans. Daniel reached into his wallet, pulling out $100 bill. Take this. Seriously. Malik shook his head. No need. Just happy to help. Daniel stared at him, impressed. You sure? Malik nodded. Daniel folded the bill and tucked it in Malik's front pocket anyway. You just changed more than my tire today, Malik? Malik laughed awkwardly, unsure what that meant. But as the car sped off into the darkening road, he had no idea that this small act of kindness had just set his life on a completely new path. The following morning, Malik woke up to the sound of loud knocking on the front door. It was barely 8 a.m. on a Saturday, and his mom had already left for her housekeeping shift. Rubbing his eyes, Malik stumbled to the door, pulling it open with a groggy, "Yeah?" Standing on the front step was a sharply dressed man in a navy blazer, holding a paper cup of coffee in one hand and a small leather notebook in the other. Malik. Good morning, the man said cheerfully. I hope I'm not catching you too early. I'm Daniel Hartley. We met yesterday? Malik blinked, confused. The car guy? That's me, Daniel said with a grin. Listen, I couldn't stop thinking about our encounter. You helped a total stranger without asking for anything in return. That's rare, especially these days. Malik stepped outside onto the porch, still in his pajamas. It wasn't a big deal. It was to me, Daniel replied. I'm not just some guy with a flat tire. I own several companies, real estate, tech, and logistics. And yesterday, in the middle of a very stressful day, you showed me something genuine. Malik didn't know what to say. His heart was beating faster now. I know this might sound crazy, Daniel continued, but I believe in investing in people, especially those with potential. You've got something special, Malik. Muscle, heart, brains. So I want to offer you something. Malik furrowed his brow. Like what? Daniel opened his notebook and flipped to a page. A scholarship, mentorship, opportunities. You name it. I want to help you, help your family, even. I've got the resources and you've got the drive. I believe the two can make something powerful happen. Malik was stunned. A part of him wanted to laugh. This kind of thing didn't happen in his world. He lived in a small rental apartment, shared a bedroom with his younger brother, and helped his mom pay bills from odd jobs. This felt unreal. I don't want anything for free, Malik said after a moment. Daniel's eyes lit up. That's exactly why I'm here. He handed Malik a business card with his personal number and address written on the back. Take your time. Think about it. But know this, I don't make these kinds of offers lightly. With a nod and a smile, Daniel turned and walked toward the waiting black SUV at the curb. Malik stared down at the card in his hand, a million thoughts racing through his mind. Something had definitely changed, and deep down he knew life would never be the same. Malik sat on the edge of his bed, Daniel Hartley's business card resting like a secret between his fingers. The afternoon light spilled through the cracked blinds, casting stripes across the floor where his younger brother Amir played with second-hand action figures. He hadn't told his mom yet. Not because he wanted to hide it, but because he didn't know how to explain it. How do you tell someone who's worked 3 jobs just to keep food on the table that a man in a Mercedes wants to change your life? He flipped the card over for the 5th time. On one side it said, Daniel Hartley, Hartley Group Holdings. On the back, call me. Anytime. His heart beat faster every time he read it. Was it real? Was it a trap? Malik wasn't a dreamer. Not really. Life had taught him early that most things that seemed too good to be true usually were. His dad left when he was 6. The promises made back then had turned into silence. His mom had become his world after that, her sacrifices, her strength, her quiet pain. And now this man, this stranger, was offering something that felt like a fairy tale. He finally stood, walked into the kitchen and found his mom washing greens at the sink. "Ma," he began carefully. She glanced at him, smiling. "What's up, baby? I need to tell you something weird. But good weird." She dried her hands, her smile fading just a little. "What happened?" So he told her everything, the flat tire, the rich man, the visit this morning. At first, her face showed only concern. Then curiosity. Then something that looked like cautious hope. When he handed her the card, she stared at it for a long time. "You sure he's serious?" she asked finally. "I think so." He didn't push. He just offered. She sat down at the table, silent for a few seconds. Then she looked him dead in the eyes. "Malik, people like that don't come around for no reason. If this man sees something in you, well, he's seeing what I've known all along. But promise me one thing. Anything. Don't lose who you are chasing what you're not." He nodded slowly. "I won't." She smiled again, a little softer this time. "Then maybe, call him." That night, after tossing and turning, Malik finally picked up his old phone and dialed the number. It rang once. Twice. Then, "Malik." Daniel's voice came through, cheerful as ever. "I was hoping you'd call. I want to talk," Malik said. "In person. Just to understand what this really is." "Perfect," Daniel replied. "How about tomorrow? I'll send a car. And don't worry, this isn't a contract. This is just a conversation between two people with a whole lot of potential between them." Malik hung up and stared at the ceiling. He didn't know where this path led, but he was stepping onto it anyway. The next morning, a sleek black SUV pulled up in front of Malik's building right on time. It looked out of place among the rusty sedans and dented minivans parked along the cracked street. The driver stepped out, dressed in all black with polished shoes, and opened the back door with a quiet, "Good morning, Mr. Malik." Malik nearly laughed at the formality, but something told him not to. He wore the cleanest clothes he had, a button-up shirt his mom had ironed and his best sneakers, still a little worn but spotless. As the car pulled away from his neighborhood, he watched the streets transform from narrow, potholed roads lined with corner stores into wide avenues with manicured lawns, clean sidewalks and glass-walled buildings that sparkled in the sun. 30 minutes later, they pulled into the circular driveway of a building that looked like it belonged in a movie. The sign read Hartley Group Holdings, but the glass and steel tower felt more like a spaceship than an office. Daniel Hartley greeted him in the lobby with a warm handshake and a grin. "Glad you came, Malik. Come with me. I've got something to show you." They took a private elevator to the top floor. When the doors opened, Malik stepped into a different world, one with floor-to-ceiling windows that looked over the city skyline, furniture that probably cost more than his apartment, and people moving confidently from desk to desk, all dressed sharp, all focused. "This is one of my main offices," Daniel explained. "But more importantly, it's where ideas are born." Malik tried not to look too impressed, but he couldn't help it. Daniel walked him through departments: marketing, development, finance. Everyone greeted him politely, a few even shaking his hand like he was someone important. At one point, Daniel stopped outside a glass conference room. "You know what I saw when you changed that tire, Malik?" he asked. Malik shook his head. "I saw someone who doesn't wait to be told to step up. Someone who acts. That's rare. It's why I wanted to bring you here, not just to impress you, but to show you that people from places like yours can end up in places like this." He placed a hand on Malik's shoulder. "But you have to see it first, believe it's possible." They sat down in his office, where Daniel handed Malik a folder. Inside was a proposal, a full mentorship program, internship opportunities, an education stipend, and even a personal development coach. Nothing shady. Everything above board. Malik looked up, confused. "Why me?" Daniel leaned back in his chair. "Because I used to be you." Malik blinked. "Seriously?" Daniel nodded. "Single mom. Tight apartment. Watched her struggle every day. I didn't get a handout, but I did get a hand up. Someone took a chance on me. I never forgot it. And I made a promise that one day I'd do the same." There was silence for a moment. Malik's mind was spinning. "You don't have to answer today," Daniel said. "Talk to your mom. Think it through. But if you want a shot, not a guarantee but a real shot, it's here." As the driver took him back home, Malik stared out the window at the city moving past him. A part of him felt like he was floating, like the world had cracked open and shown him something he'd never known was there. But with that opportunity came pressure. Expectations. A new kind of challenge. One thing was clear: nothing about his life was going to be the same again. That night, Malik sat at the kitchen table with his mom, the folder from Daniel open between them. The documents were neatly printed, organized, and filled with words like commitment, development, potential, and long-term opportunity. They read every page twice. His mom wore her glasses low on her nose, her eyes scanning each line like she was searching for hidden tricks. Malik watched her closely. She hadn't said much yet, and that made him nervous. Finally she spoke, quiet but firm. "You understand what this means, right?" He nodded. "It means someone's giving me a real chance. A foot in the door. Maybe more than that." She looked at him for a long moment, then took off her glasses and rubbed her temples. "It also means you're about to walk into rooms we've never been in. With people who don't come from where we come from. You'll see things I couldn't teach you about. And some of it might feel like it's not meant for you. But listen to me." Her voice grew stronger. "Just because you haven't been there yet, doesn't mean you don't belong." Malik swallowed hard. "You really think I can do this?" She smiled softly. "I don't think. I know." That night he signed the papers. The next few weeks were a whirlwind. Daniel's team helped Malik enroll in summer prep courses for leadership and finance. Every Saturday he met with a mentor, a young executive from one of Daniel's firms, who talked to him about everything from public speaking to building credit to understanding contracts. For the first time in his life, Malik found himself in boardrooms, libraries, networking events. Not as a helper. Not as a kid in the background. But as someone people looked at and said, "You have promise." Still, it wasn't all smooth. There were days when Malik felt like he was playing dress-up in a life too big for him. At one formal business event, surrounded by sharply dressed adults making million-dollar deals over wine and cheese he couldn't even pronounce, he nearly walked out. "I'm not built for this," he had texted his mom. She replied instantly. "You're not built for comfort. You're built for growth." He stayed. By mid-August, Daniel invited Malik and his mom to a dinner at his house, a sprawling modern estate outside the city. The moment they stepped through the gates, Malik could see his mom trying to act casual, but her eyes kept darting to the chandeliers, the marble floors, the art on the walls. Daniel greeted them warmly, introducing them to his wife and teenage daughter, both equally kind and down-to-earth. Dinner wasn't some cold, elite affair. It was real, warm food, real laughter, stories about childhoods, and honest talk about life. At one point, Daniel raised a glass and turned to Malik. "You reminded me of who I was before all of this," he said. "And every time you walk into this house, I want you to remember, this world doesn't exist without people like you in it." Malik's mom blinked fast, trying to keep her emotions in check. That night, back at home, as Malik lay in bed staring at the ceiling, he realized something. He wasn't just being given an opportunity. He was being trusted with one. And he wasn't going to waste it. September arrived, and with it came the weight of real responsibility. Malik had officially joined Hartley Group's Youth Mentorship Pilot, a structured program designed to teach business fundamentals, creative thinking, and decision-making. He was the youngest in the group by far, surrounded by private school students who came from families with names that showed up on buildings and donor walls. At first he felt like a guest, temporary, out of place. But week by week that feeling shifted. Not because the world around him changed, but because he did. He began to speak up more. He asked sharp questions. He found that while others had better clothes or flashier tech, they didn't always have his grit, his instincts, or his story, and that story gave him an edge. One afternoon, the students were divided into teams and asked to pitch an idea for a community-based startup. Each team had a week to prepare. Malik's group included a girl named Ivy, whose dad ran a media company, and a boy named Jordan, whose parents were both tech investors. The moment they sat down, Jordan glanced at Malik's notebook, filled with handwritten notes in tight, neat lines, and said, "You ever do a pitch before?" Malik shrugged. "Nope. But I've sold things. Ideas too." Jordan raised an eyebrow. "Like what?" Malik looked him straight in the eye. "Like helping my mom figure out how to stretch $20 across 3 dinners? That takes more creativity than any spreadsheet." The silence was sharp. Then Ivy laughed, not mockingly but in appreciation. "I like that. Let's roll with it." They worked. Art. Late-night calls, brainstorming sessions, disagreements, compromises. Malik took the lead on the presentation, building a concept around a mobile app that connected small local businesses with high school freelancers, graphic designers, video editors, delivery drivers. The idea was real, personal, and rooted in Malik's lived experience. On pitch day, they presented in a conference room filled with executives and board members. Malik stood at the front, confident, focused, in a suit Daniel had tailored for him just a week before. He spoke clearly with passion. Not from a script, but from the heart. When they finished, the room was quiet, the kind of quiet you hear right before applause. And then it came. Loud. Long, genuine. Daniel was the first to stand. That, he said, is exactly what this program was meant to uncover. But not everything was easy outside the glass tower. Back in Malik's neighborhood, things were shifting. His friends noticed the changes. His new clothes, his tighter schedule, the time he spent in other parts of town. Some were supportive. Others weren't. "You switching up now?" one of them asked one afternoon. "Think you better than us?" Malik shook his head. "I'm trying to build something. For all of us." But the tension hung in the air. He couldn't unsee the things he'd been exposed to, and he couldn't unfeel the pull of home either. One evening, after walking past an eviction notice on a neighbor's door, Malik sat with his mom in the kitchen. "I feel caught," he admitted. "Like I'm living in two worlds. And I'm not sure either one fully accepts me." She stirred her tea slowly, then said, "Baby, you're not meant to fit in one world. You're meant to be the bridge. The one who builds something solid between both." Those words settled into him like seeds. Quiet. Lasting. Later that week, Daniel handed Malik a sealed envelope during their one-on-one meeting. "What's this?" Malik asked. "Your first investor offer," Daniel said. "One of our partners believes in your app idea. He wants to help fund a prototype." Malik stared at the envelope, then back at Daniel. "Is this real?" "As real as that flat tire was." Malik didn't open it right away. He just held it in his hands and smiled, not because the road was now easy but because, for the first time, he was fully on it. The weeks that followed were a whirlwind of work, learning, and growing pains. Malik balanced school, his mentorship meetings, and late nights developing the app prototype with Ivy and Jordan. The envelope Daniel had given him wasn't just an investment, it was a vote of confidence that turned into a lifeline. Malik's app started to take shape. The pilot launched quietly in his neighborhood, connecting local businesses with young freelancers eager for work. Word spread fast, and soon small shops reported a boost in sales and engagement. For Malik, seeing his community benefit was more rewarding than any paycheck could be. But the real victory wasn't the app itself, it was what Malik had become. The boy who once changed a stranger's flat tire had stepped into a world that had once felt impossible. He carried his roots proudly, never forgetting where he came from, but now he stood taller, bridging two worlds with purpose and heart. At the next big Hartley Group event, Daniel introduced Malik not as a guest, but as a speaker. Malik shared his story with a room full of business leaders and young professionals. He spoke about courage, opportunity, and the power of believing in people who are often overlooked. When he finished, the applause was thunderous. As Malik looked out over the crowd, his mom's face beaming in the front row, he realized this was just the beginning. No matter where life took him, he had learned that kindness, determination, and the willingness to help others could change everything, not just for one boy but for a whole community. And that night, as Malik lay in bed, he smiled knowing his world had turned upside down, but in the best way possible.